And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL Network.
The show is Tapped Out. Brendan Tobin, Sports Machine, Sean Levine. If you missed the main event tonight, it was J. Elton Almeida by sub in the first round over Jairzinho Rozenstruik, the co-main event. Johnny Walker takes out Anthony Lionheart Smith. That one by decision. Lots of other news happening in our world of fighting. Looks like we're getting close to a Francis Ngannou announcement. That's supposed to come up Tuesday from the man's mouth. What do you think he's going to tell us?
I feel like he's going to sign with the PFL. I feel like that's the most logical thing that's out there. I mean, like, what else is there out there? Like, there's no boxing fodder that's out there. Bellator seems to be out, so that seems to be the one that makes the most sense, right? Like, I just process of elimination. If I had to guess, it's going to be PFL. I think it's going to be a big deal for them. You know, there's been some him versus Verdum chatter in the ether. So not the most exciting thing in the world. I mean, like, you know, Verdum's 100 years old. I'd rather see Francis Ngannou take on Tyson Fury than I would him take on Fabricio Verdum, to be honest with you. But you know, it's still a sellable thing. Verdum's one of the best heavyweights of all time, but it's a guy way past his prime.
And that's why I think maybe Francis was a little bit short-sighted, or maybe needed some better, I don't know, people surrounding him. I do appreciate what he did and standing up for fighter pay and himself and all that stuff. But the truth is, exactly what you just mentioned is going to be the problem. The best fighters in the world, at least 90+% of them, fight in the UFC. So if you go to a different promotion, you're going to have to pull all the work. I mean, you're going to be Verdum, like you said. I mean, that guy really is, I think, in his 40s. So what are we doing here? If you're Francis Ngannou, it's different if you're a guy like a Nate Diaz, where you're way past your prime. And essentially, there are a lot of fighters and a lot of other promotions that have probably caught up with Nate Diaz at this point in their career. Nobody, especially at the moneymaker division, heavyweight, is as good as Francis Ngannou. So again, I appreciate what he did, but it turned out, I think we can say now that we're a couple of months removed from it, to blow up right in his face.
I think the thing that I'm most confused about with the Francis thing is why the boxing thing didn't seem like it went anywhere. Because I'm looking at the landscape right now. Tyson Fury doesn't have a fight. Deontay Wilder doesn't have a fight. Alexander Usyk doesn't have a fight. Anthony Joshua doesn't just fought, but really now doesn't have a fight. So you have all these top heavyweights out there. None of them seem to have a deal. None of them said, hey, let's get in there with the UFC heavyweight champion, easiest payday of our life, France's biggest payday. Like, because nobody thought that this is something that can make him a ton of money. I think that's the thing I find most surprising about it. Not that I thought Francis was going to compete with these guys, but, you know, I thought that was going to be a legitimate thing where in boxing, somebody was going to say, oh, we could get the reigning heavyweight champion in a ring with, you know, either Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. Seems to make all the sense in the world, and yet here we are, and it doesn't seem like that took really. It seemed like it didn't have any traction.
Is it because Usyk and Fury is going to happen? I heard that the talks were kind of getting back together a little bit. Is that maybe because I'm with you? Like, and also again, bad negotiation on Francis's part. You mentioned Deontay at the time that Francis made this decision. Deontay Wilder didn't have a fight on the horizon. Tyson Fury didn't have a fight on the horizon. Like, make sure you have that done before you make your next move.
No, but that's the thing. Like, none of them. Like, it seemed like Usyk and Tyson Fury were going to fight. Then it blew up. So no, like none of these guys have fights. That's why I am surprised. And maybe he'll swerve us all, and that will be the announcement come Tuesday. I tend to believe it's going to be PFL, but I'm just surprised how it dried up as an option when none of those guys got dance partners, especially when Tyson Fury fell out with Usyk. Everybody seemed to be very open to it. Why this just went away, I don't understand. It feels like that's a fun option. I think people would be really into it. I think, you know, honestly, the heavyweight division, everybody, if it's not going to be Usyk and Tyson Fury, then what else makes sense? We've already seen him versus Wilder. Wilder versus AJ is not quite what it was. You know, I just think that the fact that they're not going that direction is kind of stupid.
Pop quiz, BT. Who's my favorite heavyweight fighter?
Right now?
Right now, in the UFC, who's my favorite fighter?
Oh,
division.
Tom Aspinall, dude.
Tom Aspinall. And Tom Aspinall is back, baby. July 22nd, taking on Marcin Tybura. Do you think that is instantly a number one contender fight where if Tom Aspinall looks like Tom Aspinall before he got hurt, could his next fight be for the belt?
That's an interesting question because, John had some comments this week about, that the Stipe fight's going to be his last fight. He seems to really not want to fight Pavlovich, which I can kind of understand. Like, why do you want to go?
Dude's
why would you want to go fight Pavlovich? So maybe, I mean, look, if this is going to be John's final fight, if they can get it together, why not, why not you win this fight if you're Aspinall, and maybe you get like Jake points out in the chat, maybe Pavlovich versus Aspinall for a vacant belt next year. So while it may not be a ticket to fight John Jones, because it seems very much like John's going to do like one last fight against Stipe and maybe call it a career, or maybe do a bunch of Stipe fights, maybe a Stipe, and then a Stipe rematch. It's a very important fight for Tom Aspinall because that dude felt like he had the rocket on his back before that injury. So it's important to see what he looks like, how he's come back, and if he still is good. And man, him versus Pavlovich is a hell of a fight, dude. I don't know who you go with in that one because right now Pavlovich looks pretty unbeatable.
Hey, speaking of great fight cards, BT, UFC 290, July, International Fight Week, Vegas, absolutely loaded. Robbie Lawler, for the final time, is going to make the walk. He retires afterwards, taking on Nico Price. You also got Sean Brady versus Jack Della Magdalena. Brandon Figueiredo takes on – actually, I think that fight got scrapped, so I'll get back to that one. And then, obviously, you got Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. Moreno takes on Pantoja. And Robert Whittaker versus Dracus du Plessis. We were kind of talking about this last card being a little bit of a yawner. They made us stay up late for it. That ain't going to happen with 290. That might be the most stacked card of the year.
No, that's a great card, man. I mean, like they're coming strong with it. I can't believe Robbie Lawler's career is finally coming to an end, though. That kind of bums me out. That's one of my favorite guys to watch in the octagon. The same weekend that him and Roy McDonald's fight's going into the Hall of Fame. But yeah, man, that's a fire fight. And like when we talked to Max Holloway a couple of weeks back, he's not ruling out Yair in that one. And it's gonna be interesting because Yair looked awesome against Josh Emmett, but Volk's no Emmett. And I think that's going to be the thing that's, can he execute that unorthodox style against Volk and have success? Because, I mean, the guy looks like a video game in there, but I mean, you got to think Volkanovski's confidence is an all-time high after what he just did trying to go for the double championship. A lot of people, he finishes that fight on top. So, like, what kind of confidence is he going to be oozing with when he goes back into this fight, defending his featherweight belt? Really, really is going to be I can't wait for that one.
Why don't other sports put games into the Hall of Fame the same way that the UFC puts fights in? Now, Robbie Lawler's a Hall of Fame fighter individually, so he's going to get there. But you think of like a guy like Clay Guida, he's not going to get in the Hall of Fame. However, he is because of a particular fight. It feels like they should do that with other sports where a game was so good, we just recognize it forever. Am I wrong? Am I off on this?
A lot of Heat fans have wanted to do this with Ray Allen's shot. Just put Ray Allen's shot in the rafters. Because Ray Allen, as a Heat player, like, you can't really put Ray Allen in the rafters, even though he's a Hall of Fame player, because he basically played for the Heat for a year, but he has the most iconic shot in franchise history. You want some way to kind of honor it.
You have a lot of pull in Miami. I know you have a lot of pull in Miami. So let me throw out a suggestion, and then maybe you throw it out to your listeners, and then see if we can make it happen. What you're saying is ridiculous, just for the record. We're not going to put a play up in there. That's stupid.
You're the one who brought it up. What are you talking about?
Stupid.
This is your idea, your segment.
It's silly. Here's what they need to do. Maybe like a X marks the spot on the court. Miami's already got all these weird different courts and uniforms, and you guys can't even figure out the name of your arena is these days. So it feels like if anybody's going to do it, you put like a little like a little RA or like a little like logo of Ray Allen just on the court where he hit the shot, because it's a very famous spot. Everybody knows where he hit the shot.
So I just want this to be clear. You think that it's more ridiculous to put something in the rafters that just says the shot than it is just, but you want to permanently decorate the court. That's not ridiculous in your mind.
Not only do I feel that way, so does every single person listening right now on the BetQL network. And we appreciate you wherever you're checking us out. Tapped Out, Brendan Tobin, Sports Machine, Sean Levine. If you like this segment, by the way,
what would you do? Would you put the Mahomes side throw? Would that be like his? What would be the thing that you would put in the Hall of Fame? That's not a player, but like
don't be silly. We can't have just little markings all over the field for everything unbelievable Patrick Mahomes has done. We're talking about one shot here for Ray Allen. Okay, one shot, like my grandpa used to take on the holiday.
So like Chad Henne's playoff game.
That should be memorialized. And don't mess with me with that one. All right, let's keep rolling on because we got plenty of other news and notes to get to. Even though you basically shot it down during the commercial break and said how dumb it was and you didn't even take time watching it, we did have a press conference between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz got up and went to the bathroom in the middle of it. There wasn't a whole lot to come out of it. It always feels like those press conferences are a little bit forced. However, once the fight goes down, have you seen the odds?
I haven't seen the odds, no.
What do you think? What do you think they look like? Just out of curiosity. You're a fight guy. What do you think the odds are? Because this could be anywhere. And for the record, I had no idea what they were going to be. When I looked at it, I was like, I have no idea.
I would go Jake Paul, slight favorite, like minus 140, something like that.
You're not too far off. Jake's like minus 180 right now. So he probably goes off as like a 2-1 favorite. I don't know. I'm not. If you put Jake Paul against Nate Diaz and you make him an underdog, it's going to be pretty tough for me not to bet on Nate Diaz. So I think there's going to be a lot of money coming in on him that night.
I really just want to see him get like, I'm not going to, like, here's the thing though, dude. Like, I just don't know what we're doing this for anymore. You know what it's like? It's like I've followed the journey, and I feel like the whole point of this was, well, we want to see Jake Paul get knocked out because we all think Jake Paul sucks. And you know what? He doesn't suck that bad. He's not a good boxer, but he's not an embarrassment. You know, like he goes in there and he looks like a boxer, and he looks like he could handle his own stuff. We've seen him in there with people, so it's like it's not that interesting anymore. You know, it's like you either want to see the freak show or you want to see something amazing, and that's it. Like, so I'm just not that excited about him fighting anymore.
He's also not interesting enough. Like now he's not undefeated, and with Jake Paul, it feels like it's kind of all forced in front of me and one-liners, and he's got that weird robot behind him and plants in the audience, and like it's just maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, and look, everything like things just run out. You know, like it just happens, and so you know when he's his peak moment will always be flatlining Tyron Woodley. That's going to be his moment forever. You KO'd a former UFC champion, put him on the canvas like that. He's always going to have that. Good for him. But then you lost to Tyson Fury's brother, and his brother's crying like he won the world championship. And I'm just like, I can't respect this.
It's cringy
anymore.
It's cringy, although also, and I don't know why I'm even saying this, like it matters. He's not as bad of a dude. Like he's not as unlikable as people once thought he was. I'm not saying I'm a huge fan or anything.
Very true. Very true.
He's fine.
It's just like
he's fine.
There's no. The only things I saw this week is like he had one of his cronies was like asking a disrespect, like, oh, I'll fight your brother, Nick Diaz. And it's like, all right, so we're going to try and rile up the Diaz brothers. Like, that's what we're going to do. I don't know. It just did nothing for me, man.
I think this one will do something for you. Hamzat has been going back and forth with Usman, and we might actually get that fight. That would be unbelievable because Hamzat, like, it feels like we've been talking about Hamzat now and how he's at championship level since the minute that we saw him. And then when's the last time we saw him? I can't even remember. And then you got Usman, who we've seen him the last couple of times obviously lose, which we're not used to, both to Leon Edwards. Hamzat versus Usman, I'm sure that tickles your fancy. What do you think the odds look like if we get that fight?
Man, that's a good question. I'd still feel like, well, here's the question, because I don't know what the hell is Usman's weight. What is Hamzat's weight class? Like, I assume if he's going to do this fight, he's doing it at 170 because I feel like you were going to fight Usman, like you're going to fight at Usman's GOAT weight class. So if it's at 170, I feel like it's it'll be a slight edge to Usman being the favorite. But I'm very much into this fight if they can make it happen. If Hamzat can actually make the weight for it.
I have no idea who would be favored in that fight. Again, we've got a great one to look forward to coming up. It's not until July. We've actually got one more pay-per-view, 289 before, but 290 just has so many bangers on it. Volkair, Moreno, Pantoja, Whitaker versus Duplessis, Figueiredo versus, again, let me stop with that one because I got to figure out who his opponent's going to be. And then Jack Della Magdalena takes on Sean Brady. So all kinds of great fights for that one. Coming up in our second hour in a little while, we're going to bring on MMA insider, friend of the show, to help us make some money. He is Marcel Dorff. But if we can get our wires uncrossed, up next, we're going to bring on Matty Betts to help us make some money. You're locked into the BetQL network.